warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My dear students, this is our 14th lecture, and this is the last one, the last lecture in our course English Literature of the 17th century. Today, inshallah, this is the, as you can see on the screen, this is the 14th lecture and this is the last one. Okay, and it will be a final revision, inshallah, for all the course and all the courses that we have already covered during these 13th lecture before this. There is one important point that I'd like you to notice and pay attention to, that this lecture, the last lecture, the revision lecture, the 14th lecture, is not enough for you to study. Someone might think that this is a lecture that can be enough for you to study and then to sit for the exam. This is not true. Please do not think this. This lecture is not enough. You need to go back again from the first lecture till the 13th lecture to cover all the materials, all the points that we have already covered. So you will find that there are many important points that are not included in this lecture. Why? Because it is very difficult to sum up or to make a summary of all the points that we have already covered in the previous lectures. So you have to study from the very beginning, from lecture 1 till you reach lecture 13. It's very important to do this. Do not depend only on this lecture, because this lecture does not include all the points that we have already covered. Okay, so some of the important points are not included. Why? Because of the shortage of time. We do not have much time to revise and to go back again to explain all the points that we explained before. So please do not think that this lecture is a summing up lecture and this is enough and you can study this and go directly to the exam. This is not true. Okay, so I'll go very quickly throughout the important points that we covered in this course, and of course, as it is our habit that after each lecture from the previous lectures you have a sample of the questions that are similar to the questions that you will find inshallah in the final exams. The materials that you have here in this course, these materials are enough for you. So if you study these materials in a good way, inshallah, you will get a high mark in inshallah, the final exam. Best of luck to all of you from the very beginning, and hope to see you inshallah in other courses, inshallah. Okay, if you still remember, we started our course with something about what we call the Puritan age, and this was our start. The literature of the 17th century may be divided into two periods, and this is very important because, as you can see, that this literature, the 17th literature on which we are concentrating and focusing, may be divided into two periods. What are these two periods? They are the Puritan age, or the age of Milton. This is period number 1, and it started 16,000 to 1660, which is further divided into Jacobean and Caroline periods after the names of the rulers. James I and Charles I was ruled from 1603 to 1625. Okay, to 1649 respectively, and this is the second division, or the second period of the 17th literature, which we call the Restoration period of the age, or the age of Dryden. So the first period might be called the age of Milton, and the second period may be called the age of Dryden, because these II were the most prominent figures in the 17th century, the literature of the 17th century. Okay, now let's move to the next page. The 17th century up to 1660 was dominated by Puritanism, and of course now sure you know that Puritanism played a very important and effective role in the 17th century. So was dominated by Puritans, and it may be called the Puritan Age or the Age of Milton, who was the noblest representative of the Puritan spirit. In literature of the Puritan Age, John Milton was the noblest representative of the Puritan spirit, to which he gave a most lofty and enduring expression. Now, if we look at the genres, we find that Puritan poetry, the Puritan poetry, also called the Jacobean and Caroline poetry during the reigns of James I, Charles I respectively, can be divided into three parts. So the Puritan poetry also can be divided into three parts. What are these three parts? They are, as you can see in front of you, we have number one, poetry of the school of Spenser. Number two, poetry of the metaphysical school. And number three, poetry of the Cavalier. Okay, now concerning the other genre, which is drama, we have what we call Jacobean and Caroline drama. After Shakespeare, the drama in England suffered a decline during the reigns of James I and Charles I. The heights reached by Shakespeare could not be kept by later dramatists. The Jacobean and Caroline dramatists gave expressions to passive suffering and lack of mental and physical vigor. Okay, now this is the third genre, which is prose. We have what we call Jacobean and Caroline prose, and this period was rich in prose. Of course, it was richer in prose than in drama and in poetry, as you can see. This period was rich in prose. The great prose writers were Bacon, Puritan, Milton, Sir Thomas Browne, Jeremy Taylor, and Clarendon. For the first time, the great scholars began to write in English rather than Latin, and this is of course the development that happened during that time, which is that the writers started to write in English, not in Latin as it was happening before. So the Bible became the supreme example of the earlier English prose style, simple, plain, and natural. Okay. Then this is the second period, or the second division, or the second part, or the second phase of the 17th century, which we called, as you can see in front of you, the Restoration period. And you need to know the dates. The dates are a little bit important. We have here this period started in 1660 and ended in 1700. After the Restoration in 1660, when Charles II came to throne, there was a complete repudiation of the Puritan ideals. So after the coming of the Charles II to the throne, there was a complete refusal, complete disagreement and rejection of the Puritan ideals and ideas and concepts and way of living. In English literature, the period from 1660 to 1700 is called period of what we call period of restoration, because monarchy restored in England under Charles II, the son of Charles I, who had been defeated and beheaded, came back to England from his exile in France and became the king. It is called the Age of Dryden because Dryden was the dominating and most representative literary figure of the age, and this is what we said, that this part is dominated and is prominent. The most prominent name is Dryden, as for Milton to be the most prominent name in the first part of this age. Okay, now Restoration drama. This is in the second phase. Restoration drama. In 1642, the theatres were closed by the authority of the Parliament, which was dominated by Puritans. And so no good plays were written from 1642 till the Restoration. During the Restoration period, the emphasis was on prose as the medium of expression. So during the Restoration period, the emphasis was on prose, the medium of expression, as we have mentioned before. Then we have that type of comedy which we call comedy of manners. In it, there are two groups of characters: the wits, and those wits claim our sympathy, and the gulls, or the dull ones, who arouse our laughter. The end is not the victory of the good over the evil, but the witty over the stupid. The comedy of manners was the most popular form of drama which portrayed the sophisticated life of the dominant class of society. Okay, now the second genre, which is poetry, during the Restoration time. Restoration poetry, John Dryden, the Restoration period was mostly satirical, realistic, and written in the heroic couplet of which Dryden was the supreme master. He was the dominating figure, as we mentioned before. He was the dominating figure of the Restoration period, and he made his mark in the fields of poetry, drama, and prose. The poetry of Dryden can be conveniently divided under three heads. So this poetry of Dryden can be divided into three heads. What we call political satires, what we call doctrinal poems, and the fables. The poetry of Dryden possesses all the characteristics of the Restoration period and the four thoroughly representative of that age. Okay, the third genre, which is the Restoration prose. The Restoration period was deficient in poetry and in drama, but in prose it holds its head much higher. It was during the Restoration period that English prose was developed as a medium for expressing clearly and precisely average ideas and feelings about miscellaneous matters for which prose is really meant. Dryden presented a model of the new prose. Now we move to another important point in our. So the first point in our course is these two parts that we have just explained right now, which is the Puritan age and the Restoration time. Now we move to another important point, which is about Milton and his most famous poem, Paradise Lost. Now also we covered this poem in about 2 or 3 lectures. I don't remember exactly the number of lectures, but if you remember what we said, that Paradise Lost, John Milton, we have here, we started with knowing something about Milton's life, and we said that he was born on December 9th, 1608 in London, and Milton's father was a prosperous merchant Milton excelled in school and went on to study privately in his 20s and 30s. In 1638, he made a trip to Italy, studying in Florence, Siena, and Rome, but felt obliged to return home upon the outbreak of civil war in England in 1639. Upon his return, after his return from Italy, he began planning an epic poem, the first ever written in English. Okay, this point also is important because it shows Milton's point of view towards women and marriage. Much of Milton's social commentary in Paradise Lost focuses on the proper role of women. In book 4, he makes clear that he does not think men and women are equals, alluding to biblical passages that identify man as the master of woman. Although Milton viewed women as inferior to men, believing that wives should be subservient to their husbands, he did not see himself as a woman hater. Okay, then we move to another important point about this poem, which is the plot overview. Of course, many parts are not included here, as I said, because of the shortage of time. So you need to go back again to the previous lectures to have a look again at all these points. Plot overview. We started with Milton's speakers begin Paradise Lost by stating that his subject will be Adam and Eve's disobedience and fall from grace. And as you can see, the story comes in and goes on to just to you have to follow all the details that are mentioned in this plot overview. Okay, now the importance of obedience to God, and this is one of the of course, if you go back, this is never the plot overview. It's too long than this, but because I couldn't mention everything here, I need at least 3 hours, and now the time specified for us is very short, so we have to go very quickly just to mention the headings, just for reminding you of all the headings, all the points that we covered already. So you need to go back again to the plot overview in the previous lectures, in the original lectures, and read all the details. This is very important. Do not depend only on these lines. These lines are not enough. Please remember this. These lines are not enough. You have to go back again to the previous lectures to read them and try to understand them. Now let's move to this, the importance of obedience to God. The first words of Paradise Lost state that the poem's main theme will be man's first disobedience. Milton narrates the story of Adam and Eve's disobedience, explains how and why it happens, and places the story within the larger context of Satan's rebellion and Jesus' resurrection. Okay, now another important point here in this poem is the symbols. Symbols are objects, characters, figures, and colors used to represent abstract ideas or concepts. We have one of the symbols that are mentioned here, and this is the scales in the sky. As Satan prepares to fight Gabriel when he is discovered in paradise, God causes the image of a pair of golden scales to appear in the sky. On one side of the scales he puts the consequences of Satan's running away, and on the other he puts the consequences of Satan's staying and fighting with Gabriel. Of course, you need to read also this just to know what does this symbol represent. Okay, another symbol is Adam's wreath. The wreath that Adam makes as he and Eve work separately is symbolic in several ways. First, it represents his love for her and his attraction to her. But as he is about to give the wreath to her, his shock in noticing that she has eaten from the tree of knowledge makes him drop it on the ground. Okay, then after finishing the poem of Paradise Lost, we move to study two other poems. But before studying these poems, we displayed or showed some what we call literary terms. Of course, because we cannot study some poems without having brief information and brief knowledge about some important terms that are used in poetry. We started with knowing personification, metaphor, alliteration, diction, epic, rhyme, stanza. These are also important. You need to know the definition of each of these terms. For example, the first one, personification, is giving inanimate objects or abstract ideas, human qualities or actions, making non-human things appear as human. Okay, so these terms are important. You need to study them, because you might have a question asking you diction, for example, is and putting any of these four terms, these four definitions, and you need, of course, to choose the correct definition. Okay, now another important point is the one that we explained to Daffodils, which is written by Robert Herrick. And we mentioned that this poem has two meanings, one service meaning and the other is deep meaning. And in the service meaning in his poem to Daffodils, the poet Robert Herrick begins by saying that we grieve to see the beautiful daffodils being wasted away very quickly. The duration of their bloom is so short that it seems even the rising sun still hasn't reached the noon time. Thus, in the very beginning, the poet has struck a note of mourning at the fast dying of daffodils. And then this is what we call the service meaning. If we move to the other meaning, which is the deep meaning, which is we have short time to stay as we have a short spring. And here Robert Herrick symbolically refers to the youth as spring in these lines. He equates or compares the human life with the life of daffodils. Further, he says that both of them grow very fast to be destroyed later, just like the short duration of the flowers meant to die away soon. And this is the deep meaning, that all of us die soon, the same as flowers. Nothing is permanent, nothing can last forever. Their life is as short as the rain of the summer season, which comes for a very short time, and the dewdrops in the morning, which vanish away and never return again. Okay, so you need to study these two meanings. Then we move to the theme, and the theme here in this poem, we have the short-lived nature of life, the fleeting passage of time. Like the flowers, we humans have a very short life in this world. Beauty is not going to stay forever, and of course this is very important. Okay, now we move to another poem, which is Virtue. And this poem also is written by another poet, another one who is very famous, George Herbert. And in Virtue, which comprises 4 quatrains altogether, Herbert reflects on the loveliness of the living world, but also on the reality of death, building momentum by moving from the glory of a day to the beauty of a rose, to the richness of springtime, while returning at the end to each quatrain that everything must die. Okay, now before moving to the last page that we have here, that also Herbert here, in this one, Herbert leads the reader to the last slightly valid quatrain. Herbert contrasts the passing glories of the mortal world with the eternal glory of the immortal soul, and thereby distinguishes between momentary and eternal value. Of course, again, these lines are not enough to understand the whole poem. You need to go back to the original lecture to have more about this poem, and inshallah you will find everything you need in the original one. This is only a very brief summary, which is not enough for you to understand the poem. Okay, now let's move to the item that we ended with. We ended with studying the text, which is All for Love by John Dryden, and we started saying that John Dryden, the dramatic works of Dryden, and we said that large number of plays written by Dryden. Dryden was one of the first writers to take an advantage of the reopening of the theaters, which had been closed when the Puritans under Cromwell came to power in England. Dryden wrote a large number of dramas which are detailed below under appropriate headings. These are the headings of his dramatic works, starting with comedies, and of course when you go back to the original lecture you will find that under comedies some names or some titles of these comedies are mentioned, and they are very important. Also the same for tragic comedies, the same for tragedies, including heroic plays, and the fourth type or kind of his dramatic works is operas. And of course under each type of this you have some works of him. You need to know these titles, okay, because they are important. Now, Dryden was a man of versatile genius. He distinguishes himself as a poet and as a dramatist and as a critic. He made a name for himself in the writing of both verse and prose. However, it is not as a dramatist that he won immortality. His greatness rests chiefly upon his poetry and his literary criticism. As for his drama, it is only All for Love, the text that we studied together, which still endures and which will always endure. The play was written and first performed in December in 1677. All for Love deserves a very high rank in British drama. Also, another important point here is that he chose a subtitle for his play. Dryden gave to his play a subtitle which is The World Well Lost. So The World Well Lost is the subtitle of All for Love. The subtitle means that Antony did well to sacrifice his empire for the sake of his love for Cleopatra, and that Cleopatra did well to sacrifice her kingdom and her life for the sake of her love for Antony. Okay, now I have already finished all my lectures, the 14th lecture. Hope you can study well, and I think everything is clear. The materials that you have here in the course, these materials are enough for you. There is no need to go here and there. Just study these materials, study them well. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to receive any of your questions. Best of luck to all of you. Inshallah, to hear that you have achieved high marks in my course. And I still have 2 live meetings with you in case you need to ask me any question. I'll be pleased to meet you again and again. Hope to see you inshallah in other courses. Thank you very much. All the best to you. Thank you very much and good luck to all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.